Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today we're going to have a look at a brand new upcoming aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are looking at the Skywards simulation's DA50 RG. This is a simulation of the Diamond DA50, one of the newest general aviation aircraft available, which has just been certified by the FAA in 2023. So brand new stuff over here, but then again, not all that new to flight simmers. If we do have a look inside the aircraft, we are quickly going to notice that it does look somewhat familiar, being a close relative to the Diamond DA60 or the DA42 that we are familiar with already. So overall, a lovely new aircraft, and seeing that it is rather similar to the DA62 that you guys are familiar with, it is also not going to come at the most expensive price. Indeed, it is going to be priced pretty decently. So let's have a look at what our new airplane offers then. So generally, as all the Diamond aircraft, it just features a really cool interior. Now, we do have good modeling here, with operable doors in the front and also in the back when we have a look over here. Now, good quality texturing throughout, inside and out. At some places I could imagine a little bit higher level of detail, like on the aft wall over here, but in general the airplane is featured in good quality at the positions where it counts most, which is the pilot's seat. From the outside, it is also looking pretty cool. The DA50 is rather similar to the DA62, but just look at that front window over here. That really caught me. To me, this looks somewhat a bit like a submarine, even though I'm not 100% sure how I can relate to that. But it is a rather tiny windshield, and you can imagine what a tiny windshield means for flying. Of course, high speeds. Now, the DA50 features up to 180 knots true airspeed at altitudes up to flight level 200. Now, it does not have a pressure cabin, but it does have an oxygen system fitted on the inside, as you can see up here. So the pilot and the crew can get additional oxygen from this system, supporting them at altitudes up to flight level 200. Now, let's go ahead and have a look at how the DA50 actually flies. Now, first of all, quick thing here, if we have a look into our weight and balance, we can see maximum weight for the airplane is 1,999 kilogram. You might be asking yourself why. That is quite easy. From 2,000 kilogram onwards, the aircraft would have to be registered under a different category, making it more expensive to operate. And since that is not the case, or rather since the manufacturers wanted to avoid that, they registered it up to 1,999 kilogram. This in turn means the airplane does have a little bit of reserve power, and we're going to see that in action in a few moments. Okay, first of all though, let's go ahead and fuel it up completely, and then we are going to close those doors. Really lovely looking futuristic doors, aren't they? Windows operable as well. We're going to make sure that they are closed though. Right, and the front door can close and the aft door can close as well. In terms of operating procedures, if you are interested, you can grab the original pilot's operating handbook of the airplane right from the website of the manufacturer Diamond. And here's just an example of what that looks like. It's 435 pages of operating manual, because this is the real aircraft's pilot's operating handbook. So lots of good stuff available in there, like the normal procedures, like the performance charts and stuff like that. So all of that good stuff is right there available for you free of charge if you just Google for DA50 POH, and then you will be directed straight to the manufacturer's website where you can download the pilot's operating handbook. Alright then. So let's go ahead and have a look at how the airplane is going to perform. A little caveat over here, this is of course a pre-release version that I'm showing you, so naturally speaking, it might have some bugs still. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's turn on the electrical master. The airplane does feature the working title Garmin G1000 system, so there is a good quality IFR navigation suite available in here, and if you've got the Navigraph edition installed, then you can also make use of the VFR en route charts of Navigraph, which I am going to use in this video. So, pretty cool stuff that you have available all over here. So we're going to take those daylight or night charts. I'm probably going to go with the night charts. That just reads a little bit nicer on the overall display. Okay, so apart from that, you can see we do have once again a FADEC equipped engine available. So a couple of things that we need to check here. The FADEC switch is on auto. We run the test during the pre-flight later on, or rather during the run-up, and apart from that, our G1000 are basically the standard systems. Now, something I really hope is going to be added in the plane in the future is what we would be able to find right down here on the real one. There is an optional controller available for the plane that would include the keyboard for the G1000. Unfortunately, that is currently not fitted, but then again, this add-on is aimed to be in the lower price category and is not going to be as expensive as some other general aviation aircraft we have. So it does fly pretty nice, that much I can tell already, but it does not feature these optional extras here. Alright, nonetheless, we can move the armrest up and down, but that's about it. Okay, so fuel selector is set to the normal position, trim is centered, thrust idle, cowl flaps open, park and brake set. Yes, that's the park and brake. I really found that one lovely. Okay, environmental control systems currently off. We're going to deal with that stuff once the plane is powered up. Apart from that, we have pretty much all these switches off except for the Electrics-Master. Anti-icing or de-icing system is turned off, and FADEC is on auto. Okay, landing gear down, flaps up, and that's it. So then, let's go ahead and turn the plane on and see what it's going to look like. So, strobe lights are coming on. Then, the engine master can come on. Emergency fuel pump can come on. So, wait for the glow light to go out. Here we go. Engine start. I just love these FADEC equipped aircraft. So beautiful. Okay, so engine is running. We'll let it run on idle for 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and start that timer to have the engine warm up. Thereafter we can increase to 1000 RPMs. Okay, so I do assume that all of you are familiar with the working title G1000, so I'm not going to go into too many details over here. All that I am going to do is a little bit of basic stuff here. So QNH 1010, pattern altitude is going to be 1000 feet, and we are going to use that initially. And then what else do we have? For the route, we are going to fly in the immediate vicinity of Verkehrslandeplatz Küritz, a wonderful German name. Basically, Küritz Airport, add-on available through Aerosoft, and I do really like that one. It is just one of those cozy small airports, but it has one very good commercial flight school here with ADEX, which really have a name to themselves in Germany. Okay, so that much about where we are and what we're going to do. So let's just go ahead, enter a flight plan over here. So, origin, we are in Echo, Delta, Bravo. Here we go. Kilo. Come on. Here we go, Küritz. And that is also going to be our destination. And on that one I'm just going to help myself using the keyboard input here. Echo, Delta, Bravo, Kilo. Here we go. And as our route we are going to fly via Vibis towards Bravo, Kilo, Delta and back. So that's pretty much what we've got close by to the field, so that we can do a little bit of cross-country flying in order to explore all the facilities of the plane. Okay. And this is basically going to be our routing. Quick 30 miles over here. Easy going. Alright then. So, get rid of that. We're going to go back into the en route charts. Here we go. And then we do have 2 minutes. So, in order to warm the engine up, we can now increase our power. Let's go for 1100 RPMs. Okay then, here we go. Yeah, engine is warming up beautifully now. And with that, we've got 1000 feet pattern altitude set, QNH 1010. I'm going to switch this one over to the GPS, even though I don't really feel that we're going to need it. Apart from that, our speeds are programmed already. 94 knots is going to be our en route cruise climb speed, and that is it. Alright, so reset the timer, we don't need that anymore, and the transponder is on 7000. I'm going to switch it on, and here we go. Okay, so avionic master can come on. And then looking onto the en route chart, let's zoom that in for a little bit. So we're going to have runway 14 in use. Avoid overflying the city of Küritz, not gonna be a problem. Is there a windsock? Yes, there is. So yeah, runway 14 as I said. Alright, so it's going to be departure down there. We're going to turn crosswind in front of the road, and then we'll depart the crosswind over there, making sure that we don't crash into those wind turbines over here. Okay, and that is pretty much our briefing completed. So then, 22.8 active, 1 to 1.5 going into the standby. That's it, and finally I am going to switch the Bronkendorf VOR active on 17.7, I believe. On both sides, and then we can take our DME, we can take a bearing 1 and bearing 2, and that's it. Okay. Looking good, then let's go ahead and take our airplane into the air. So, park and brake released. Let's try not to overrun this gentleman here, though, yep, that's probably it for him. Okay then, clear left side and clear right side. Off we go. So, engine temperatures are coming. By the way, I do just want to point out that I find it really nice that those temperatures are rising slowly and that they don't just show up immediately, if you know what I mean. On so many flight sim aircraft, the temperatures just appear immediately and you don't have to worry about the engine. On this one, you do have to think a little bit about your engine, and I do really like that. Okay, so the engine is now warm. Let's reduce power a little bit again so that we don't taxi too quickly. You can see how quickly the plane started moving when we've been using those 1100 RPMs there. Don't want to go too fast for sure. Oh man, taxiing it straight actually isn't all that easy when you're on the outside model. Okay. So, park and brake is set. Then let's go ahead and do the run-up. So our engine numbers are looking good. In terms of fuel, well, I'll talk about the fuel a little bit later because it is actually a little bit more complex of a system. Okay, so flight controls. Working. Flaps. Can obviously just either monitor it here on the gauges, or you actually look to the side and see the flaps move. And here we go. Okay, so it's a diamond aircraft, and those usually have the flaps on the takeoff setting for the takeoff. Seems logical, doesn't it? Okay, then let's go ahead and run our engine test. So what are we looking for? Well, when we press the test button, then we've got two FADEC computers that are going to test themselves. So the engine is going to do a run up a little bit, then we will see electronic control unit A or B failure on here, indicating that the system goes through a predetermined cycle for both of the electronic control units. Let's give that a try and see how that's going to work. So power lever needs to go in idle for that. Okay, press and hold the test button. So here we go. Now ECU B fail is showing. That means that ECU A is currently running the engine, and ECU A is currently carrying out the test. Now we get ECU A fail, meaning that ECU B is now running the engine and running the test. And when the test is complete, you will see both fails disappear and the engine is going to go back into idle. Okay, with that we can release the test switch. Once again, numbers are looking good, so let's go ahead and do the full throttle test. With that, we just want to make sure that we can get full power out of the engine. So with the parking brake set, we're going to increase our throttle all the way to maximum and see what we're going to get. Ooh, mostly we get a moving aircraft. Okay, so the brake has some trouble holding it in place, it seems. Did we scratch across the whole throttle line? Yes. Okay, well, nobody on approach though, so at least that keeps us safe. Okay, so that much about the test. So now, let's see, 23 degrees. Let's just about turn up the fan a little bit. Keep the cabin temperature down on cold over here. And, well, I do want the air directly on me, please, and not on the windshield. Okay, apart from that, the emergency fuel pump is running, propeller de-ice is off, essential bus is off, electric master on, avionic master on, pitot and stall heat coming on. Don't worry about the stall heat failure indication over here, that is going to remove itself when we set our takeoff thrust. Flaps are out, landing gear lever is down, and with that I'd say we are good to go. Okay, so parking brake released. Adding a bit of power to get it moving. And we're clear on the right side. Clear on the left side. Lining up runway 14. Excellent ground maneuverability, as you can see. Very easy to make it line up very precisely. Okay, so transponder is going on altitude and the timer is ready. So takeoff is quite easy. You do set full power on the on the load indicator. So we're looking for 2,340 RPMs on the takeoff. Rotate at 66 and you can see your speed for the best angle of climb and the best rate of climb right over here. En route climb is 94, so that is likely what we're going to use as soon as we're out of the traffic pattern. Okay, so with that we are good to go. So parking brake is off. Flaps are out, and that is the most important checks. So lights are all coming on for the takeoff. The pitot heat is on. So start of the timing and go. You do need quite a bit of right-hand rudder. So RPMs 2,340 as we are supposed to have. Rotate. So, positive climb, tap the brakes, and there is insufficient runway ahead to land straight ahead, so landing gear up. As you can see, good rate of climb. Now we're in 400 AGL, that means load goes back to 90. And flaps coming up. So, starting the right hand turn. A little bit of turbulence here from active sky. So let's just about level off at a Patron altitude. 50% load should keep us at a good speed. In the closer proximity of the airport, that's the road we must not overfly. As you can see, we are on a good track over here. Okay, so those are the wind turbines that we must not go into. So let's go ahead and leave the traffic pattern over here. Trim it out. And here we go. You can already see 47% load, 120 knots. This is a powerful aircraft. Okay then, so leaving the pattern over here, I will just keep flying straight for a little bit until we're clear of the wind turbines. There is no airspace above us that we would need to respect, so we can go straight ahead up to a decent altitude. Okay, so power 90%, 2300 RPMs maximum. Let's climb up to 5000. And over there we can do a little bit of air work to make ourselves comfortable with how the airplane operates. Okay then, right turn out. It's a little bit turbulent down here, as you can see. That is turbulence from active sky, by the way, that we are seeing. So even in clear skies conditions as we have them today, there is still a little bit of weather going on. Okay, flight plan, VBIS, direct, enter, activate. Let's fly on to VBIS, and we'll just climb a little bit in order to get rid of the ground turbulence that we have over here. So if we look into the pilot's operating handbook of the real aircraft and then just do a couple of numbers, then let's have a look. Let's have a look at what kind of rate of climb we're expected to get. So I'm going to turn on the autopilot here. Heading hold and flight level change. Autopilot on. Letting go of the controls right now, and it is indeed establishing itself. Good. Okay, so let's have a quick look into the pilot's operating handbook to see what kind of numbers we should get. So that's from the original POH here. Let's go performance, and we're looking for cruise climb. Okay, so power 90%, maximum 2300 RPMs, airspeed 94 knots. At roughly 4000 feet, at an outside temperature of 0, we're looking at about 1000 feet a minute that we should get. So let's have a look at what the airplane actually delivers us right now. Look at that! Right now a little turbulence here, but it does seem to stabilize somewhere about just shy of 1000, so we're climbing slightly faster than we should, but keep in mind that the book is written for an airplane at 1999 kilos and that we are a little bit lighter than that. Okay, so just about turning the autopilot off again, and the flight director as well. We are all well familiar with how the working title G1000 autopilot works, so we know already that, well, we basically don't need to worry about the avionics or the autopilot. What we're interested in is how this airplane is going to perform, and that is what we're going to test now. So leveling off in 5000 over here. And I'm just going to keep the power in for now to see how the airplane is going to accelerate and what kind of speed we can achieve over here. We are a little bit below the altitude where we can get maximum true airspeed, but let's see what kind of numbers we're able to achieve over here. So, just a quick check of the controlled airspace over there. Beginning flight level 95, so not a problem. And that is all above level 100, so we can go straight without any issues over here. Okay, so down to 75% load, which is the maximum permitted for normal en route operation. And it looks like down here we get about 155, slightly decreasing. I tend to say we're going to get roughly 150 knots true airspeed down here. Now, if we were to climb to a much higher level... That's interesting. If we were to climb to a much higher level, then I would absolutely not be surprised if we indeed ended up getting about 170 knots or something the likes. 180 is the maximum the plane is advertised for. So, I tend to say that what we have right now seems okay. But we can do a couple of numbers again. Let's just make it a left-hand turn here towards Bronkendorf VOR. Might just as well use the autopilot in a few moments. Let's just bring it onto the course to the VOR. 27 miles to run. And then we're going to do a little bit of performance stuff. Okay, so stable on course. Alt, nav, autopilot. So the autopilot's set to maintain 4,850 feet. That's okay. Stable at about 150 knots true airspeed, as you can see down here. Seems okay to me. Alright, so one more look into the manual to see what we are going to get. So, cruise performance. And remember, this is for 1,999 kilos. We are lighter than that, so a little bit difference in speed is expected. So at 4,000, 75% power, we are looking for 12.4 gallons per hour fuel flow, and in ISA conditions 152 knots true airspeed. So if we do have a look into what we actually have now, fuel flow 12.4 gallons, pretty accurate, and we're looking at 150 knots true airspeed. That puts it within a couple percent of the performance that we are actually meant to achieve. That's quite cool, isn't it? Okay, so that much about our general performance. Now, let's go ahead and do a couple of flight tests over here. Autopilot can come off, flight director can come off. Let's just pull it down to idle. Can you ignore that gear warning here, please? And now we're going to do a quick check of the stall performance of the aircraft. Just aiming to maintain that altitude that we have right now. A little bit more aft stick, a little bit more aft stick. Okay, that's our first stall warning. Just want to see what's actually gonna happen. Now we're below the green band. This is maximum aft stick deflection right now. Very gentle airplane. Look at that. I'm keeping my stick maximum aft. Easy going. Okay, let's release that stick again. Add some power. Let's not pull a secondary stall. Back to 75%. Easy going. Okay, let's quickly climb it back to 5,000 feet. And then we're going to try the same again, using the gear and the flaps down, to see how the airplane's stall performance is going to be in landing configuration. Okay, so flaps takeoff, gear down, flaps landing. Okay, going to maintain those 5,000, power idle. Let's see what we're going to achieve. Okay, full aft stick. Reaching the red band. Nose comes down. Very gentle. This is all with the stick fully aft. Can't pull it any further aft. Very nice behavior. Okay, let's go ahead and recover that. So, flaps takeoff, gear up, and flaps up. So I want to try one more test, and that is what happens when I bring it into the approach to stall area with the nose a little bit higher, and then I kick the rudder. Let's see if we can somehow enter a bit of a spin there. Not at all, look at that. Bit of aileron maybe? No. Can't force it into a spin. Very, very nice behavior. Very, very nice behavior. Okay, so now what I'm eager to try, the manual showed us that we had a maximum load for cruise there of 90% on the engine. Let's bring up those 90% and see what we're going to get. So, power 90%. We'll set course back towards Küritz already. So, direct destination. That's going to be 17 miles, so not all that far. Let's go down to 4,000, as that is exactly where we get numbers from the product manual. And then we'll see what kind of performance we're going to get with the power at 90. This is really maximum power now. Okay, and here we are. So, let's trim it out, let's make it fully stable. Like, here we go. Oh, lovely. Okay, altitude heading autopilot. And now we're going to have a look into the manual one more time to see what kind of power setting we have now. Okay, so 4,000 feet, 90% power. We're looking at 15.3 gallons per hour fuel flow and at approximately 163 knots of true airspeed. So fuel flow 15.3, spot on, and the true airspeed 159 roundabout. Let's do a quick temperature check though. So OAT 15. Up here we should have 2 degrees below 15 per 1,000 foot of altitude. So we're looking at 8 degrees minus. So we're looking at roughly ISA plus 10 for the numbers. Let's just check the manual one more time. If we take the ISA plus 10 values at 4,000, 90%, should have 164 knots of true airspeed. So generally 160 versus 164 we should have. In my opinion, that is within a very few percent of the actual aircraft numbers. So that is quite good. And the fuel flow is spot on. Now I told you a little bit earlier that we would talk about the fuel system for a bit. Because as you can see, looking down here, we are exclusively using fuel from the left-hand tank. And down here, you can only choose between fuel normal or fuel emergency. But when you have it on normal, then it basically just uses the left-hand tank. And you can do something against that. Now, as fuel is consumed from the left side, obviously the plane will start to develop a tendency to roll to the left side as well. Now, for this, we've got the fuel transfer pump. And this transfers, as the arrow indicates, fuel from the right into the left tank. Let's turn that on. Now we're getting the fuel transfer indication up here. And now what's going to happen is that fuel is being pumped from the right tank into the left tank. So the right level is going to go down, the left level is going to go up, and like that we basically have to keep our fuel balanced. Okay, advisory is flashing, of course, since the fuel transfer indication came up. So like this, we are now keeping our airplane in balance. Okay, and that is generally how you operate the DA-62. Now, I'm not going to climb it up to level 200 to show you that the plane can do that as well. We'll just take it as given, and I can tell you in some previous tests while I've been gathering a little bit of experience with the plane, I did get it all the way up to level 200. It was within a couple percent of the figures from the airplane's operations manual, so overall the plane is really flying pretty well and close to the numbers. Okay, so looking at the fuel now, you can see that the left and the right tanks are almost level once again, so we can turn the fuel transfer pump back off again, and that's it. Okay, so back down to 1,000 feet, we can take the autopilot and the flight director off, altitude down to 3,000, and we are going to reduce our load a little bit. I don't want to be going into the turbulence with too high a speed here. Let's keep it somewhere close to the maneuvering speed here at 152, while also keeping the rate of descent under control. Now the rate of descent is an important point to mention over here, because as I mentioned, the plane can fly well above level 100. You do have an oxygen system fitted up here that you can turn up or down, like this, but we need to keep the airplane's rate of climb and rate of descent in a decent level here. More than 1,000 feet a minute is generally not very good for the human ear, and if you've got a cold, then even 300 feet a minute can be too much for you already, and your eardrum can possibly rupture. So for that reason, keep your rate of descent under control and don't generally do more than 1,000 feet a minute here unless you absolutely need to. But as you can see, once it's trimmed out, I'm basically off the stick at the moment. The plane does go pretty nicely. Slight tendency to bank left. You can counter that, of course, by burning up a little bit of fuel from the left-hand tank to have the right side a little bit heavier, or you could use a rudder trim, you name it. Okay, so our airfield is located right over there. I'm going to fly into the middle of the field, then we'll make a left-hand turn here, and we'll fly the airplane straight back into the traffic pattern for a few touch and goes, so that we can check the airplane's takeoff and landing performance. Something I do have to say, seeing that this is an airplane that is approved for IFR operations, it is very well equipped for those, and I can tell you already that flying at IFR is a lot of fun, but for an airplane that is likewise used a lot on VFR flying, the forward visibility really isn't that good. Now, this is not the kind of airplane that you would use for terrestrial navigation. I mean, obviously you are flying VFR, but let's face it, when you got an avionics suit like this, you will basically be following the magenta line, no doubt about that. But nonetheless, for seeing and avoiding traffic, the forward windshield is pretty small indeed. Now, if you are moving a little bit further up front, then obviously you can see a bit more, but let's face it, this is not how you're constantly flying. And this is quite a big piece of airframe that's right in front of you over here, so that is something that, well, maybe Diamond could reduce the size of that a little bit. Obviously speaking, in terms of flight simulation over here, Skywards simulations just modeled how the actual plane looked like, and that is totally fine. Okay then, let's enter the right hand downwind for runway 29. Just place the, actually runway 14, my apologies for that. We'll just place the heading back here at 140. Okay, speed is coming back, flaps takeoff, landing gear down. And then we're on the right hand downwind and we can already turn base because they don't want us to overfly the city. Let's just zoom this in and here you can see the traffic pattern. So I'm actually flying slightly outside the pattern here, but we're going back into it now. Okay, flaps coming down full. Let's pull off the power so that we can start descending a bit. Down there is our runway. Checked. Okay, turning slowly into the final. Shallow turn. 10 degrees bank, looking nice. And we're flying into the puppy. Here we are. Okay, nicely established. And that's looking pretty good. Getting a little bit low, but remember the puppy is, technically speaking, not for single-engine aircraft. Okay, power off. You immediately feel how the plane wants to descend. Okay, and we're down. Bit of power on again. Flaps takeoff position. Set power. Rotate. And off we go. Okay, insufficient runway ahead. Tap the brakes. Landing gear up. Back to 1,000 feet Patron altitude. And I tend to say we can do a little bit better than what we just did, so let's do a little bit better than what we just did. So, more than 400 AGL, power 90%, flaps up. We'll keep the lights on since we're in the pattern, and the same goes for the fuel pump. Okay, approaching the cleared altitude. Let's make that turn upwind. Okay, power somewhere 40%. Should work rather well for the traffic pattern with the DA50. And keep the altitude under control as well. Okay, so we do turn into the base prior to the wind turbines over there, so let's start our base turn now. Don't try to follow the pattern over here too closely. That can really just lead you into situations where you are using more bank than you actually should. No need to do that. And I am just going to set the runway track down here on the CDI. Like that. Okay, so approaching the downwind position over here. Flaps takeoff, landing gear down, lights on, fuel pump on. And we've got the gear down with 3 greens. Speed starts to come back nicely. And then we try not to overfly the city this time. So, right hand turn. Turning base, this is where we can also leave our pattern altitude. Flaps landing. A little bit of turbulence here, making it not as easy. The pattern should basically go right above that road over there. So I tend to say we're in a good position right now. Down there is our runway. Let's do another touch and go. Ultimately, we want to complete 3 landings in total so that we are certified to take along passengers on this type of the aircraft as soon as we finish our introduction flight. So remember, on any given class of aircraft and type of aircraft, you need 3 takeoffs and landings in the last 90 days in order to be allowed to carry passengers. And that passengers obviously does not only mean commercial operation here, but it also means carry passengers on your private flights, like your friends and relatives. And that even applies all the way up to airline operations. So in long-haul flying, those 3 takeoffs and landings actually are quite a bit of a thing. And it does happen that pilots just don't get those 3 takeoffs and landings in the last 90 days. And if that happens, well, you gotta go to the simulator. Okay, so nicely established. Keeping it a little bit low here on the Papi, just because I want to bring my plane down to the very beginning of the runway. So, power idle. Flare a bit. Okay, flaps back to the takeoff position. Set power. Power set. Rotate. I really like how easily the plane lifts off the ground. Okay, so tap the brakes, gear up. Flies pretty nicely, doesn't it? So one more, and when that landing also turns out well, then we are certified. Okay, reducing power, 90%. Flaps up. This time we're going to fly a proper level off. And make the upwind turn. So, power back to 40. Trim it out. It does need quite a bit of trimming on the traffic patterns. And here we go. Okay, so we'll just keep the bank going here in order to make the downwind. A little bit turbulent down here close to the ground, which you can kind of feel. Okay, so takeoff flaps, landing gear down. Okay, so if this landing turns out fine, then I'm happy. Speed is slowly coming back, reaching the end of the wind turbines here. So we can slowly start our base turn. Okay, our landing flaps. And down we go. So, we'll get it in trim already. A little bit less power here, approaching that road. I'd say this looks about perfect. Okay, so that's our runway. Coming in a little bit quick here, let's pull off a bit of power. By the way, you can nicely see how the FADEC alters our RPMs here by actually giving us a little bit higher RPMs when we go to the very low power settings, which means that the plane develops a little bit more drag. Okay, so turning final. So the gear is down, flaps down, lights on, fuel pump on, looks perfect. And here we are. Okay, perfect. So, nicely established. You can see it's very easy to get the plane stable on the final. I'm going a little bit below the profile once again. Fully intentional. Okay, power idle. You can see how the plane immediately wants to start descending. Okay, and we're down. Don't even need to brake. This is without any wheel braking here. Okay, now I'm applying a bit of brake. So, half an hour flight time. And vacating over to the left. So, what's my verdict on the flight dynamics then? Well, I do have to say it does fly quite nicely. Now, it does, of course, we had, of course, a little bit of turbulence in there from active sky, which you could feel, which at some point made it look a bit weird. I did try the airplane without active sky as well, and it just flew perfectly within the scope of normal Microsoft Flight Simulator dynamics. So don't be mistaken about that. Now, flight model itself does feel fine. It is close to the numbers if you ask me, certainly within the scope of what we can expect within Microsoft Flight Simulator. And overall, it is a great lot of fun to fly. Now, in case you're wondering, some people do have a bit of trouble following or maintaining the pitch closely using the indication we've got over here. So if that is you, then you just turn off the synthetic vision. And some people just fly a lot better without synthetic vision, as it gives you a little bit of a less accurate ADI gauge, and that makes it easier for some people. So that was a bit of my feeling here about my own hand flying on this one. Basically, whenever we did that and whenever I tried to maintain a certain pitch, let's just call it the synthetic vision display was a little bit of too precise indication to fly precisely, if you know what I mean. Alright, apart from that, taxi model of the plane seems pretty nice. The optics, of course, are. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, but this plane is so similar to the DA62, why would I get it? Well, to be honest, it is going to come at a pretty decent price. So, the price point, together with the fact that you've got a lovely airplane, in my opinion, really makes it worth it to get the DA50. Now, let's go ahead and park it over here. Beautiful ground modeling, as you can see. Really nice to get the plane around the turn. This is all without differential braking. This is all just with the rudder paddles. Okay, so park and brake is set. So flaps are going up, pitot heat off, fuel pump off, and everything except the strobe light is off. Avionic master also going off, and then we can stop our engine. I just love how easy it is. Even though every time I see the propeller stop that quickly, and it happens with a lot of the FADEC equipped aircraft, every time I see the propeller stop that quickly, I'm always like, that can't possibly be good for the plane. But if that's how they build it, then that's how I expect it to be kinda okay for the plane. Okay, so thank you very much for flying along then. I do hope that you have enjoyed this one. Skywards Simulations, Diamond DA50, beautiful little airplane if you ask me, and a great lot of fun to fly this one. Now, it goes all the way up to flight level 200, so why not take it up there and do a little bit of an airway blocking out on VATSIM with true airspeeds of about 180 knots maximum. Realistically, up at flight level 200 using 75% load, you're going to be somewhere in the region of 165 knots true airspeed, which is quite cool for getting along quickly, but then again, isn't exactly how fast other aircraft at those levels fly. Beautiful airplane, all I can say. And with that, thank you very much for joining. I hope that you liked it. Be sure to let me know what you think about the DA50 in the comments below, and leave a like for the video if you did like it, as it does really help out the channel. And if you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe. Finally, if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below, as I am not getting any money from the developers for doing these reviews, but I do them entirely for the joy of it, and of course because of your appreciation. So, with all of that, thank you very much to OpEx for providing my preview version of the DA50, and then I'm very much looking forward to your feedback on this one. Thank you very much, and see you all again right on the next one.